Hello everyone, and welcome back to Abundantly Minimal. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous about making this video today. It's definitely something that I've reflected about and prepared informally for several months now as I got closer to this point. So today we're going to talk about the future of Abundantly Minimal and some changes. I plan on doing all the most basic information, just like the logistical details right away here, because I know not everyone wants to stay and hear the whole backstory. So we're going to start out with quick version of the announcements and what's changing, and then it's probably going to be a pretty lengthy video of me talking through a variety of layers to this and stuff that happened behind the scenes that I hadn't really shared or that I haven't necessarily wanted to share, at least until now. So that's the plan. Quick details here. I am continuing this channel as it is. Please do not misinterpret that. The channel is staying as is. The next video is going to be very cool. It's going to be an A to Z declutter video, so stay subscribed. Don't worry, it's coming soon. What is changing is I've decided to shut down my website, abundantlyminimal.com, as well as I'm changing my course provider and also shutting down my email list and like those freebies that come with it. I was in a situation where last year I actually spent more on the cost of all of these things than I made in terms of course and ebook sales. And so I had the tough choice of, do I move forward and fight for it to make it work and to try to bring it back to life, so to speak, or do I let it go and, say that it's run its course? And I've chosen to let that aspect go. So that being said, July 24th is the last day my site will be operational. It's the last day the ebooks are available there. I want to just make it very clear because any of the freebies I've talked about in my videos will no longer be there. Any of the ebooks will no longer be on the site. There's a lot of content that I've talked about and linked over the years that will no longer exist on the 24th and from that point forward. Again, YouTube is not changing, but I just wanted to be very upfront because you may see some of these actions and I don't want you to think that something's wrong if you try to go to a link and it's, no longer valid or that kind of thing. So that's just the general gist, but we have a lot to talk about today. Now I'll go into a lot of the layers behind this and unpack these things a bit more. And I am nervous about this video and sharing some of this, but I think also there's a sense of relief, because I do think this will help my workload and some of the insanity with that. And I think also part of me is excited to share these, I don't want to call them failures because I don't believe any of it actually is a true failure, but just the lessons learned along this process and kind of how I'm shifting my mindset going forward. And with hopes that, even if this particular situation doesn't directly apply to you, I'm hopeful that there maybe are different things that I'll say today that could resonate with you, maybe with something that you're doing for a job, or if you've thought about, doing content on YouTube or whatnot. So that's my hope, but feel free. I anticipated this to be a difficult video, so we have a matcha latte here to help me along. But I also have timestamps below, so it's possible you don't need to know all the sections or you don't want to know everything, so feel free to skip around as you wish. First, let's start with some disclaimers. Today, I'll be sharing a lot of bad news, personally with Abundantly Minimal as a business. But this doesn't mean that I feel really sad about it or that I am asking for pity or condolences or you to do anything different. It's just me sharing information. And likewise, I will also be sharing a part of the video with some really good news. And my intent there is not to be bragging and boastful, like, look what I did. But it's just, again, sharing information. I think we have to see both the peaks and the valleys to be able to get the full context of at least this decision and where my thinking was for it. So again, that's just a disclaimer. So just take it as you wish. So I think to get started, we need to take it back to the beginning. Why did I create my channel in the first place? And for me, I've always been a planning type. I am very detailed with my plans and very thorough. And so I also love looking ahead and thinking about different opportunities for the future. So I knew when Jake and I got married and started our lives together that we, on teacher salaries, we're not really going to be able to afford maybe the kind of lifestyle we want And specifically, I knew in the future, at whatever point I had kids, I wanted to be stay at home, work from home with them, for at least a decent part of their lives, and be able to offer them more of my time and spend that time with them in their precious moments. So for me, that was always the goal. And when I have a goal, I'm pretty hardcore about making it happen. And so that's why I knew I needed to create a business or an online business that would enable me to do that, to continue being at home with them in the future. So that was always my intent. And I didn't necessarily know how I was going to get there or what I was going to do, but that was the goal. And spoiler alert, we don't have kids yet, but it did end up working out really well, better than we thought. The fact that both my husband and I are home full time. That was never the plan, that he would also join me. I didn't think that was possible. So ultimately, it is a happy ending. So let's fast forward to YouTube. Why did I start YouTube? I was a YouTube junkie. I loved watching YouTube. And I think one of those things is if you see people doing something that you enjoy and you think that maybe you could consider it, you definitely want to give it a try. And for me, I loved watching YouTube, so I thought I would try it out. Now, a fun fact, Abundantly Minimal was actually my 4th attempt at a channel. I had a couple others that I thought I was going to go in that direction and maybe uploaded a couple videos, but then changed my mind or went a different path. So it's just kind of funny. There was never more than like 10 videos on the other channel, but it was just me trying to figure out where I was going. With Abundantly Minimal, after I learned about what minimalism was, I was excited to start making those changes in my life because we were living in chaos and we were so busy with teaching. So it was a really good avenue. Now, many of you know that Abundantly Minimal is not the only thing I do. I have run 2 businesses, and I've talked about that a long time. They are legally in one business, and they're different branches of the business, but we've got Abundantly Minimal and Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. And Abundantly Minimal even branches out into 2 parts. There's the YouTube part, again, which is not changing, and the other part, which was the website, abundantlyminimal.com, and the other non-YouTube parts of the business, selling my ebooks, putting together the courses and hosting and selling those courses and teaching them, the live coaching I did with that, the maintenance of the website and somewhat social media. I don't do much with that. But that was kind of the business structure. And for me, why did I start 2 businesses? I have too many interests, and also I think to some degree I wasn't sure what was possible, if I would be able to fully sustain myself and achieve my goal with just one. And with that, I'm really glad I did do both. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else, but I am glad it worked out, and I'll explain more about that later in the video. But I do just want to focus more on the Abundantly Minimal side right now. We'll get to the other part in a little bit. So I had this plan, I started this channel, I started to see some success. So with that, I had to think about the monetization of it. Now, we'll do a little mini crash course here in monetizing on YouTube. In general, ad revenue is a part of that. So when there are ads on the videos, after a channel has at least 1,000 subscribers and enough watch time, to be honest, I don't remember what the numbers are right now, but maybe like 4,000 hours of watch time in a year. I don't remember. They probably change it sometimes too. But then you can be eligible to be monetized, and you'll make a certain amount of money based upon your audience that you have and also the types of ads and whatnot. I'm sure there's plenty of other videos that go into more depth on this on YouTube, but that's a portion. But it's definitely recommended to do something else besides that, because unfortunately you don't really have much control over the revenue you earn from YouTube. It depends on, are people watching the ads or skipping them, what demographic people are in or what country they're from, because different countries will bring in different ad revenue. The rates you get paid can go up or down based upon the economy. So when the pandemic became a really big deal here in the US in March of 2020, my ad rates dropped dramatically and didn't recover for a long time. I was making about 1/3 of what I was before, and that was a very sudden change. So you definitely can't count on it, but that has been the largest source of income from Abundantly Minimal over the years. At least from what I'm aware of, there's 4 other ways that a creator can monetize. Of course, I'm sure there's others too, but some will use physical products, actually selling merch or other related shipped items that go out to the people who are buying them. There are also crowdfunding platforms like Patreon, where members can pay to access exclusive content and support that way. There's, of course, sponsorships or affiliate marketing. So that's working with different brands that either pay a flat rate for a video or you talking about a certain topic or a post about it, or affiliate links where they will pay you a commission based upon how many sales come through from your fans. And then finally, the one that I did the most with is the digital educational products. So this could be online courses, this could be ebooks, that kind of thing. So of course there's others, but those are kind of like 4 of the main areas. So in terms of abundantly minimal, we did actually try 3 of those 4 areas, and we had some mixed results, leaning more towards it really not working out. I never did physical products just because to me that would be completely dumb for a minimalism-spaced niche, and I think a lot of the stuff people might sell, this is just my personal opinion, it might be stuff that people aren't actually using that often. I could be wrong. So, more power to you if you find something that you enjoy, but I never wanted to deal with that, as well as all of the added logistics of having to get the materials, make sure you have enough sizing if you're selling clothing or something like that. And we just already have a stuff problem. So I was never going to do that. I very briefly tried sort of the crowdfunding option with Patreon. I think I did, without realizing it, pick the worst possible time I could have started it because I just had a lot on my plate at that time. But I also think even in just that short window, and I realized this more later after talking with Vera from Simple Happy Zen, who's a close friend of mine who is on Patreon as well, I think I underestimated the amount of labor going into marketing that so you can get people to sign up. I really loved the community aspect of it. It felt so nice, even for those 2 months that I was trying it out, to have, that very tight-knit, close relationship with the people in the group. Like it was only like 11 people at its max. So it wasn't anything crazy, but it felt nice to have that sort of safe space, if you will. And so I definitely think that would have added value long term had I been able to balance it better. And I talked about this with Vera too, but just in doing that short time, I didn't realize how much you'd have to fight for people to sign up and be a part of it. I know for me, the intent behind it was to have it be just like full, honest conversations, very casual, informal, raw, like conversation style with my husband Jake. And it was so much fun to make those videos, and it was meaningful conversation. And I liked the fact that I could just show up, no makeup, just feeling comfortable there. But because I have to market it, I still was needing to design thumbnails. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not wearing makeup, so I don't want to put myself on the thumbnail if I'm not doing that. And so I just realized very quickly that that wasn't going to be a good fit. You can't be so chill and comfortable when you also have to, market very intently just to even make it worth your while and worth your time to be putting in this extra energy. So for me, it was bad timing, but also I realized very quickly that it was going to be too much work. And I think too, this is very common with paid platforms, and mine was maybe a higher decrease, but I know Vera talks about month to month people come and go, and especially when you're making very personal content and then you see that after your first month 30% of the people leave, it's like, oh shoot, like I'm definitely doing something wrong, like what am I doing wrong? So anywho, it was an interesting experience, but definitely not doing that anymore, and that wasn't a good fit. Sponsorships and affiliate marketing is definitely something I dabbled in. I would say I never did a lot of it, and I honestly don't think I will do a sponsored video again. My thoughts have changed a lot on it, and I think the issue that I ran into is either, the brands that do reach out are things that are just so far removed from anything I would actually ever talk about. So most of them I decline, or just because of the frequency of emails, just ignore. Sometimes when there was a good fit, it was really exciting, and I did videos with some of those people, or brands I should say. But one of two things happened. Either it wasn't successful enough on their part, like they didn't get enough people clicking my link and trying it out, that it was not worth it for them to continue working with me. I think I have a very frugal audience, since I'm a very frugal person too. So that didn't end up going very well, I don't think. And then the other thing that would happen too is maybe they would want to continue working, but the rate was, from my opinion, for the added work that goes into a sponsored video, for me, I'd probably spend 2 to 3 hours extra on a video for a sponsored video than a regular video. And so the price point was so low that it didn't really feel like it was worth the added stress and time, especially because when you're making a sponsored video, you have to submit it for approval, which makes total sense, but they can make you redo your whole video or have to go in and like completely change things based upon if you said the wrong word or if there was something that they didn't like about your finished product. And I only probably had to change videos like a third of the time, but that was always just, such an added stressor, and I just don't think it's worth it anymore. So for me, that really didn't work out. Obviously, the bigger the channel is and the more viewership the channel has, it definitely can be very lucrative. It can be multiple thousands of dollars in one video, which if I was at that rate, sure, I would definitely be more likely to do it again, as long as it was a brand that I cared about, that was ethical, doing good work. So, I am happy I tried that approach, but didn't really have much luck. And then I think too, the affiliate market world is very interesting, where you get the commission from different products, where maybe they send you the product and you talk about it and whatnot. But I think often too, just connecting it back, I would get such low click-through rates. There were actually 2 different campaigns where I didn't even get anyone to sign up. And so it's like I did all this work and then there was literally no, compensation for any of that, from the brand. So I think definitely too, that wasn't really a good fit for me or this channel. So that one didn't work. And then that leaves me with the last option, which is what worked for a while. And that was doing online courses and ebooks. So with that, I started my online courses back in 2019. And with that, I think I'm very intense. So I was like, oh, let me go online courses. And I created 3 different programs all in 2019. If I could go back in time, I wish I would have just focused on the one, because I ended up making a lot of extra work for myself. And because I was insecure about charging a little bit more for the course, I added in all this extra stuff and added work to myself to try to justify that. And then I gave everyone who'd signed up earlier free access to all this stuff. So when I really think about it, that was so much extra work. And I don't even want to know how many hours went into some of those that I never saw, just with programs not selling well. I had 2 courses. The extra 2 courses I offered were Monthly Minimalist Makeover, which had monthly challenges all related to minimalism and decluttering. And that was a really cool program. It was a lot of fun. The challenges I thought were really good. Each month there was a new about 15 to 20 page guide I put together with action-packed worksheets, and I was really proud of that, but I just was never able to get enough people in that to justify the time involved with that. And I also created a course, Conventional to Intentional, which was a 30-day program with videos and daily worksheets and reflection activities. And that was a much more lower priced option, and I didn't put as much labor into it as the other ones. I made it in about a month or so, but that also did not end up going that well in the big scheme of things. So those were there. And then I did have more success with my Better with Less decluttering course, which I actually went through 3 different iterations. I completely redid the course 3 times over the course of the 3 years, which I don't want to say is unheard of in the online business world, but there are certainly some very successful creators, as in multiple millions of dollars, who don't redo their stuff. And so I was definitely never anywhere close to that. But it was just, for me, I was always concerned with putting my highest quality work out there and structuring things in the best possible way. So I had a lot of, it was very important to me that everything I was creating was like the best possible thing I could put together. And so it ended up taking a lot of time. And fortunately, it did work. We ended up having total in the length of the program and all the iterations and launches of the program, about 200 students go through that program, which was really cool. And I cannot speak highly enough of the lovely group of people who is in that program, and I'm still continuing to have that program be available, but I'm just changing the platform of it. I'll have links below if you're interested. Something that I realized with the online course world, especially in an active course where you are taking a big role in your students' success, and like you're showing up live on a coaching call with them, or you are replying to all the posts in the Facebook group, or making yourself available to discuss via email, like their different challenges. I think for doing an active course, it's only sustainable if you can maintain new signups. Now, some course creators will charge a monthly fee. So, if it's like a membership, maybe you pay $40, $49 a month or something to continue access. And for me, I didn't want to do that. I felt like it was fine to do a one-time charge. Ultimately, would I have been able to keep going with this program as it was longer with a monthly charge? Maybe. I just didn't. That didn't feel right for this work that I was doing. So anyway, long story short, let's talk some stats. To get into some of the numbers, this worked well and was a good source of revenue for myself for several years. And it actually, the relative success, I should say, of my first launch of Better with Less was right before I left teaching, and I was using that as a metric to determine whether I felt comfortable leaving the classroom or not. And I made about, I want to say $3,700 doing that first launch, and I thought, you know what? Yes, like I was so busy with teaching, I can totally grow this. I've been taking all the courses and learning, so I can do it. And so that was actually, I already had, thought a lot about leaving teaching, but that was like the final result I was waiting for to say, hey, yes, you can pull this off. Now, it turns out that was totally a false sense of security because I never had that many students sign up again. I'm really glad looking back that I did leave the classroom though, because I needed that time for my teacher business, which we'll get into later. But definitely it never, did as well as that. And these launches were a very difficult time for me because not only was it a ton of work leading up to launches, especially if I was redoing my course videos, that was like half a year's worth of YouTube all in like a month's time, and lots of editing and creating the worksheets. It was a ton of work, like months sometimes leading up to a launch. So that was definitely difficult, but then also to put so much effort into it, and then also to see, way fewer sales and signups than you expected, and just wonder like, what am I doing wrong? I think it's important for me to say this is not an invitation. I'm not interested in people's random, business ideas and whatnot. There's been a trend recently. It's been really bad this year. I get about 5 emails a day saying from random people who are like, hey, I looked on your website and I see that, you've got this cool course, or I watched your video, and they copy and paste the title of the most recent video. Like, yeah, I don't think you watched my video. And they're like, I put together a email sequence of 3 emails to send out that will really increase sales. Like, let me know if you're interested. It's like, there's so many of those, and it's just so spammy right now. So that's not me saying, if any of you are watching this, like, leave me alone. I took a lot of, courses there. I learned a lot. I don't need your random ideas. But anyway, I digress. So put all this effort in, and you just don't see the sales that you're looking for. And I think part of the reason why I kept changing things up, both in terms of the course itself, but also how I marketed the course, was just trying to get people to sign up. And it was also it was just a very funny juxtaposition, because if I was making a video talking about the course, and there'd be so many lovely comments, some from my students being like, this is the best course, and like, we love this course, Sarah's awesome. Like, it was so nice. And then there were also people who hadn't taken my courses who were like, wow, congratulations on your success. This is so amazing and so professional. It looks like a great course, like so nice. And I really appreciate it. But believe me, it was not success in terms of, people were saying that I might have had like 2 signups. So it was just funny, I can present myself in a way that's very happy and professional and excited about it. But inside it's like, just someone sign up, like, please. And so I just think mentally it, feeling like you have to beg for people to sign up for a course, it's not a good feeling. And I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of the course. I think everyone's looking for something different. There's several others in the space who have very successful decluttering courses. And I know that just by default of the size of their audience and the size, when you're bragging in an email that you got 9,000 people to sign up for your course in a recent launch, it's like, that they're not giving any of those people like one-on-one time, That's what I've offered. I've always felt, the need for providing as much value as possible. And it never really took off too much. We did in January of 2021. That was my best launch, and that made me feel like I had finally gotten my stuff together and that it was working. But that was, I think, unfortunately just the exception and not the rule, because then in this most recent year, I launched it twice, and in the most recent year, I wasn't able to see, that kind of success again. And so for me, that's just where it's tough. I think I felt after a while just tired of being on like the roller coaster of it. And also, to talk specific numbers, like in this most recent year, just the total cost of me to run abundantlyminimal.com, the course platform, be able to send out emails to people with their like freebies and that kind of thing, to pay for the pro account of Zoom live coaching, and like paying for the specific email address and these other things, it runs about $2,500 per year, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize is, I feel like for a frugal mindset, that's pretty expensive to just have these things be operational. And there's certainly ways that you can hack it so you don't have to pay as much. But also when you're doing that, you're costing yourself more time and potentially having to do more troubleshooting or more work. And I don't want to have to deal with that. My time is very limited too. So for me, this past year, I brought in about $1,500 with course sales. So from my actions last year and all that work, at this point, maintenance is about 10 hours a month I'd spend doing website course email stuff. But it's like, that's a bummer to be, after a year worth of working, to be in the hole $1,000. So for me, that's kind of where I was at with this account in this situation. And it's not that I don't think it would get better. I do feel like I have a growth mindset that if I keep working hard enough and like if I change the right things, I can pull it off. But I also don't want to sacrifice my values and feel like I'm, playing all the marketing games, just like we talk about avoiding, to prevent impulse purchases and that sort of thing here on the channel sometimes. And so I just didn't want to sacrifice those values. And also, I want to be mindful of my time and, the quality of life I want to have. Just work-wise with both of the businesses, especially this transition, like I've gone to bed between 4 and 6 a.m. every night the last week, just because I've had so much to do. Like I went to bed early-ish, like at one night, and the next day was like the worst because I was so behind. So I think it's just really, it's too much and it's not worth it. And even with the ebooks, I've talked so much about the course stuff and not the ebooks, but even my most recent ebook, which I think came out in March of 2021, maybe, I paid someone to help me work on it and help me put things together and, finalize it. And it sold, I thought it was really going to be my best-selling ebook, but it sold so bad that I'm still in the whole $800 on that. And that was after, a really intense month of work on it. And so obviously, I take full responsibility here. I didn't market things right. I didn't maybe fully understand the needs of my audience and what people were looking for. My audience is different than other people's audiences. And so, I only can blame myself for these shortcomings. But yeah, it's just at this point in life, I think I'm ready to let go of that. And at the very least, I don't want to keep losing money after putting in so much work. So that's kind of where we're at with things, and a lot of the context that leads into this decision to walk away from this. Time for a matcha break. I always respect people who have like fun beverages during their videos, but I just never drink them because I'm just very focused on getting them done. So we're trying here. It's even separated a little bit. Some of the matcha has settled to the bottom. So we've talked a lot about this. Let's get really specific on what is changing. So starting the 24th, abundantlyminimal.com is a website. There won't be anything there. I'm open to selling the domain. I technically own the domain name until April, but the Kajabi platform where I host my course and emails and all of that, that expires July 25th. The email list I have, which is where people get their free resources that they can sign up for, as well as where I've sent emails to the people who want to be notified, that's shutting down. I won't be doing any more live coaching sessions, and I haven't really been active on social media. The Instagram page will stay open, and at some point I still think I'll do more there because Instagram is my favorite social network, but the Facebook page definitely I'm never going to touch again. That was really the whole point of the Facebook page, was only to potentially get to the point where I'd be running Facebook advertising, which is something that a lot of course creators do, including minimalist ones who are against ads, which I find that's a little petty. That's a little petty Sarah coming through. People who are like, oh, ads suck. We don't do ads, but then they advertise their own products on other platforms. Like, what? Anyway, basically, as much as possible is going to be run out of this YouTube page. And I also have my Kaya page, which Kaya is amazing, and they, I think, can be a great answer to my issues with other platforms I've talked about. However, they're still not available everywhere yet. I don't know if they're still just in the 4 countries they were before. So hopefully that continues to expand and people can get more access to these things. Like, I'm going to be putting some of the freebies there later, hopefully, if I'm able to. But now, this is definitely a big change, and I'm feeling a lot of different things. On one hand, I feel a little embarrassed just because a lot of people can make it work, and I was just not one of those people. I tried a lot, I worked very hard, and it didn't pay off. Part of me is disappointed in the sense that I wanted it to work, and I felt like I had a lot to give, but I didn't end up convincing people of the value of it, or it didn't end up resonating with people. So, it's frustrating every time you put time into something and it doesn't, necessarily work out. But of course, it depends how we define success. I don't think I would change the experience. Well, I would change certain elements of the work that went in. I think the meaningful connections that were formed within that group and the progress people in the group made is incredible and life-changing. So that's very cool and very, very powerful. So I wouldn't change that at all. I think there's an element of relief. I know when I decided this was several months ago when I realized that looking at my numbers, I was not going to continue this paid program, which is the bulk of that $2,500 charge per year. So I've thought about this a lot, and I feel a sense of relief that finally the changes are happening and that this will be a big thing off my plate coming up. And to have that extra time back, I think, is very important. And I think I am also excited about where things are going. So with that, we've talked a lot about kind of the bummer news, but also where a lot of this comes from and where my decisions go also come from the extreme success of my other business, which is Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. I run it with Jake. I am the legal owner, but I have continued to be blown away by how that is really resonating. We predominantly create social studies resources for history teachers, largely at the middle school level, which is exactly what Jake and I both taught. But it's been truly amazing. I know when I'm making YouTube videos, and there's a bunch of people in the minimalist space, I don't necessarily think, wow, this video I did, that's the best thing on YouTube. I never thought that. Or I really do take a lot of pride in the ebooks and courses, but I'm not going to say, oh, well, this is the best ebook out there on minimalism, or this is the best minimalism course out there, by far. I don't necessarily think that, because I think there's a lot of people doing it and a lot of people with a lot of talent. But it's very interesting because in the social studies like education space or history education space, ironically, even in 2022, there is still a huge gap, or what a ton is missing, of resources for teachers to use. And, people always think, oh, well, aren't the teachers given supplies and given the lessons they have to teach? And unfortunately, the answer is, well, it depends, first of all, but the answer is that unfortunately, in many cases, teachers are not given very much. Even in my schools where I've taught, in my first school, they gave me the 3 textbooks because I taught 3 grade levels of social studies history content, and that was all. So it was like, okay, am I just supposed to read the book with my kids? And heck no, am I doing that? And then the next school I was at, there was another teacher teaching the same subject as me, and we were given books, and there was a 1-page sheet to walk you through the year. Obviously, if it's all on 1 page, there's very little detail there. And so those are just 2 examples. They weren't bad schools I was teaching at. I loved working at those schools, but that's very common where teachers are not given much. And so what's crazy is when we're making a resource for our store, we have currently, at the time of filming this, over 460 products for sale in our teacher store. And these range, we have full lesson plans. We actually have a couple full semester plans planned out for teachers, so they don't have to plan their whole semester. We've got everything for them. And a bunch of little stuff too that are smaller pieces that would cover a teacher for 1 day or 2 days or that kind of thing. But it's crazy because it's 2022. I feel like probably it's all been done before, but it's not. And in many cases, when we're creating something, I can genuinely say I think that is the best thing for that topic that's on the whole platform with 8 million resources. And that's kind of a wild thing. And it's been very cool to see. We ended up having over 50,000 products sold this past year, for a variety of teachers all over the country and even somewhat the world. But it's just so cool when people say that. They're like, I've bought a lot of other resources before, but I only use yours now. Or it's like, this was the game changer for me to even want to stay teaching and not leave teaching. It's like, when that stuff happens, when you hear that, that is so humbling and very exciting. It's given me so much joy in that sense. And, money talks. The money that we've received from running this business has not only been able to cover me not having to be working a traditional job, but the fact that Jake is able to work with me full time. And we have a 3rd employee as well. And we went to a business conference earlier this month for our teacher business. And for our income bracket, we were at a hiring panel, and it suggested that we have a team of 6 for where we're at with our store. It's like, no wonder I'm exhausted. Ideally we should have 3 additional people, working on this. So it definitely gave me a lot to think about. And just when we look at our tax return information, our teacher store brings in 93% of our total earnings. So that's Abundantly Minimal YouTube channel and these courses. Well, the courses lost money, but the Abundantly Minimal YouTube channel basically brought in 7%. But I think the numbers speak for themselves. Fighting for this course just wasn't worth it. And honestly, at this point, kind of stupid to be, putting in so much time for so little payout. Again, life is not all about the money, but I think it comes down to, finding that right balance of everything. And, just being completely honest, I love making social studies resources way more than I like talking about decluttering, honestly. That's always been a passion of mine. That's why I went into teaching. And I remember even during some of the course launches where I might be spending a whole month just focused on resources, and sometimes getting overwhelmed and telling Jake, it's like, all I want to do is create my social studies resources. That's all I want to do. Can I just do that? So I think the time has come to finally make this change. So you've made it through a lot of me talking, and we're not even done yet, but I just want to say thank you for being here. I know, like I said, there was some bad news, there was some good news there, and it's me just trying to have an honest conversation about this. I think there's importance to talking about this kind of stuff, but I know it's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. But the last main topic here in today's video has to do with, what about YouTube? What does the future hold with YouTube? And I know in the past I was like, I'm not going anywhere, but I have changed my tune a little bit. Now, in the short term, nothing is changing. I anticipate that I will be on YouTube at least an additional year, I think. And there's a couple reasons why. And I also have done a lot of reflecting recently about my true thoughts about YouTube. And I will say, this is not me, I'm not going to be coming in trashing YouTube. All of it, when I talk about YouTube, is my own actions towards my channel. Because some people are like, oh, YouTube doesn't show my video, stuff like that. I think anything that doesn't go well, I just take the blame for. It's like, yeah, it's my actions. People are doing very well on YouTube, and I'm not one of them. And that's okay. That's because of my actions, what I am doing and what I won't do. So that's just a little disclaimer there. I realize I won't be here on YouTube forever for a variety of reasons. I think, first of all, I realize that making YouTube videos, like the video process itself, actually is not aligned to my interests at all. I realize what I like is the teaching. I love to think about video ideas. I enjoy planning the topics out, and I enjoy the teaching process, which is like right now. I know we're not really teaching right now, but we're just talking. I love that, and I love being able to interact in the comments and hear feedback, just like if I was teaching students and you see the feedback. I love that part. Turns out I hate everything else. So I wrote a list here just so I didn't forget. I hate setting up lighting. I hate getting camera ready. I hate filming B-roll, which is like the extra clips people do, so it's not just a video of the person talking. I hate creating graphics for videos and taking pictures for thumbnails. That's why I don't do it, if you've noticed. I hate dealing with camera settings, the large files on the computer that take forever and use up so much space and computer memory. I hate editing videos, and which is why I haven't been. Shay, who's awesome. Hi, Shay. She's been editing videos, I think, for over a year now, maybe. I think around that. And honestly, I don't think I would still be doing videos if I had to edit them myself. Making the thumbnails, feeling the need to market or promote videos, and that feeling, oh, just kidding, we're still going. That feeling when a video flops that you put a lot of work into. That's always disappointing, especially if you're like, oh, this is it. I'm really pushing a lot of effort into this. And then it just, crickets. The culture on YouTube of not taking breaks. A pet peeve of mine is when people come in and say, oh, I thought you stopped YouTube. Or I thought you said you were quitting. And literally, I just announced that I was going to take a 1-month break. And I still, every month, get people saying, oh yeah, when you quit YouTube. That's a pet peeve of mine. It's like, I never quit. Look at my videos. So it's like, even if you take a break, or if you say like, hey, I'm going to take a break, a lot of people that means quitting. But like, look guys, I'm intentional. Like, I will tell you if I'm quitting. I'm too planned out to not leave that, explicitly stated. And also, just like I said earlier, those random scammy emails, I swear, like, I probably get about 10 emails a day. Half of them are like, I can help you sell your stuff if you work with me. And the other half is like, hey, do you want to make a sponsored video about NFTs or cryptocurrency or this random Amazon product that you've never heard of that has like no reviews? I swear, it would almost be a funny video to just go through all the weird products that people have tried to get me to do a video for. There's a lot of weird stuff. Anyway, so yeah, those are all the things I don't like about it. And I realize, yeah, it's like I like the teaching part, but pretty much everything else is not a fit. And I think too, it all comes down to alignment. Like, I feel like for me, since I don't really love the video creation process, or at least trying to advance it, it's not like what I want to spend all my time doing. Like, there are so many amazing channels with like incredible videos and it's like cinematic. But then you find out that they spend 8 hours a day editing, and that sounds miserable to me, honestly. So I don't have it in me to do that. And I also think to get your video seen at this point, besides just being very good at making videos, which I'm not, I think is sometimes it feels a bit scamming to me because it all comes down to your title and thumbnail. Not everything, but that's a huge part. And there's been channels I've seen that I really respected, and then their thumbnail situation has turned into like, this is the end, we're ruined, plans canceled. I think if you know which channel I'm talking about. There's other channels like that too, but it's like my life is so good and I have a lot of privilege, so I don't want to like put myself out there and like pretend like things are really bad. I'm just not going to do that. Hello again. We had a short intermission. Jay came home from an errand, so we were talking for a bit, and then the sun is coming in too much, so I had to close the blinds. So it is what it is. I'm almost done though. As we were talking about just different things I've realized after, doing YouTube so long and realizing that it's not going to be something I'm doing, forever or on a very long-term basis. I think something I've realized over time is that in a capitalist society, and especially for someone who's trying to start a business or wants to, run a business, have a side hustle, make some of this extra income, it's very easy to think I must turn my interests into a business, or I can take my interest and then I can monetize it. And I think through doing this, for as long as I have, I think there's something nice about reclaiming an interest just for your own sake. I know for me, I have a lot of different interests. Decluttering, I would say, is an interest, but even more so other interests like travel and cooking and recipe development. That kind of stuff is really fun for me. And at different points people have been like, oh, you should do more of that, like you should make more travel content, you should focus on these different things. And while we might have a skill at it, like I love travel and I plan really good trips and we do really cool experiences at less of a cost than the average person might do it because of some of my strategies. So it's like I could go down that path and create helpful travel content, but you just, at this point, it's like I think it's nice to have an interest just to have an interest. And I think that's something I didn't necessarily operate from that perspective earlier on, but I'm trying to get back to that. And of course, it's easier for me to do that now because I do have a thriving business, so I can say, hey, let me, step back a little bit on some of these other areas and just, focus on living my life and enjoying these things for the sake of enjoying them, not like, oh yeah, let me do this and then monetize it, or what can I do with this interest? Because I also feel like that could be a potential recipe to lead you to fall out of love with a certain interest. So I just think that's important to mention too. I didn't necessarily think like that before. I think also with time I've actually craved more privacy and I feel more vulnerable about sharing different things on this platform. And well, of course, anytime you're putting yourself out there, there's always a risk of you're opening yourself up for nitpicking and criticism and that kind of thing. But I think as I've done it longer, I just am maybe more irritated by that. It's not so much like, oh, wow, they're right. Like, I don't think that way. It's more like, really? Like, you don't think you're being a jerk to someone, but it's like, I didn't ask you for your opinion. Like, leave me alone is more the feeling that I feel when I see some of these come in. And it's just like so annoying. And I think, in certain cases, like once someone hits a certain level of success and a certain volume of people on their channel, they're not actually maybe reading comments at all, or generally not responding to any of them, or very few. So I think, in that situation, you get to a point where you're just like, yep, tune it all out. Who cares? People can comment what they want. And the comment section is almost more for each other. I think where my channel is at, it's still like a back and forth between me and the commenters. At least that's my thoughts for how I see it. And so, I think I'm kind of over that. And I think especially, it's fine, it's just me really doing this. But I think especially in the future, thinking about with, Jake and my future family, I don't want to have them on the channel at all. And I want to preserve that privacy. And this is my fundamental belief, for any kids, but like, they don't know the significance of having their face and videos of them seen by thousands. They cannot consent to that. Even if And even if a kid's a little older who can kind of consent, like they're aware that they're being filmed and it's being posted, they can't wrestle, like they don't necessarily know what their thoughts are going to be about it once they're an adult. So I get it why some people do it, and I think that's a very personal choice, but I think I wouldn't want to have any part of that, like when we have a family. And so I think it's also very possible that at whatever point we do have our first child, I could see that as being the catalyst that leads me to, stop the channel. So those are some thoughts. And, I don't like that we have to keep coming back to finances, but I can't help it. It's a big part of, the decision-making process. And, I think there's a lot of ideas people have, like, oh, how much YouTubers make and stuff. In recent times, like I looked last night before I filmed this today at my most 5 recent videos, and in terms of the ad revenue, the most 5 recent videos have made between $20 and $60 per video. And when you really factor in the amount of time and labor that goes into each video, even though we're not doing anything fancy, it's a pretty bad investment. There's obviously the preparation time, there's me actually filming and then sending over the clips to my editor, and then her time, and we're paying her. It's not a quick thing to edit a video, so it's likely that just the cost of paying for the editing is more than what we'll make on the video. And then she sends it back and I check it and post it and then respond to the comments. Really, it's a bad financial move where my channel is at personally. Granted, past videos can still bring in revenue, but it's not the same level of passive income that our other business has. I do feel like at whatever point I stop making YouTube videos, there will still be some, but I feel like we're probably talking a couple hundred a month, really, not anything, livable or anything. So those are some of my thoughts about why I don't think I'll be doing YouTube forever. With that in mind, though, although strategically I should shut it down right now, just from a purely strategy basis, because, the numbers don't lie. It doesn't make sense. For me, the personal stake I have in it, I don't feel like my story is finished. I don't feel like I'm done teaching what I want to teach. And I also feel like I don't want to end it at this point. It's not at I want to go out on a high note, if that makes sense. I feel like this is sort of, if you imagine, the journey of life, this is a lower time. Granted, it's not actually a lower time. I was telling Jake, I think this past year has been the best year of my life, which is also, it's been a weird feeling because in the microcosm that is my life and my family and my home and, the way I'm spending my time, it's the best year of my life. But I also recognize that it's a really bad time for so many people. It's a really difficult time. So it's weird to be existing in those two worlds where, I'm loving life to the fullest in my own personal life. And then it's so difficult for so many. And it hurts my heart to see different challenges, rights being taken away. Like, it's a rough time right now. So, but I think in general, the story is not finished. So from my perspective, that's why I am continuing right now. And I think, I don't want to say that what I'm going to be posting going forward is going to be the best content because, like I said earlier, certain things, I'm over it. Like, I'm not going to be making like crazy thumbnails to really get those views coming in and playing those games. And I'm not trying to become a cinematographer, so you're not going to be seeing any award-winning shots. My videos are not going to be the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. But I think there's still meaningful ideas to be shared and different topics that are worth talking about that maybe others aren't. And I know if you've made it to this point, wow, like, thank you. You are a true fan and very supportive. I appreciate that. But I think hopefully maybe to some at least this offered like a fresh perspective to what people's perceptions are about this platform and about running an online business. Because to be honest, I don't think I've seen a video like this, and maybe that's why I feel motivated to make it. There's plenty of videos of people saying why I quit YouTube, and I do find those to be very interesting, especially like being on the platform. But I also think too, I'm taking it kind of from, at least this was from a little bit of a different lens. There's so many videos where like, yeah, you can run a business, you can be successful, you can do all this stuff. But the thing is like, it doesn't always work out. But it can be part of a bigger story. And I think, it's all about learning and continuing to, do better and figure out more what's aligned and letting go of what isn't. So anyway, what a video. This was very long and lots of chatting here. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to this next phase of Abundantly Minimal here with you all as well, if you choose to stick around. So thank you so much. I'm sure you've watched plenty, but heck, if you want to watch any other videos, I'll put them here, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.